All righty then. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
I haven't seen you since the It's Based Game Jam, which was what, a week and a half ago? A week
It
ago?
was a little bit back, definitely a few
Yeah.
days.
Yes. So, how was your first experience with this one, by the way? Because this is a bunch of rookies putting stuff together. We'll start with that.
With the jam was
Yeah.
good, man. I think the energy was high, which makes up for a lot of any rough spots.
Right.
A lot of good game devs actually producing good games. That makes the jam ending fun to see some good content. So I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I did too. I mean, it was for those on the back end, like they pulled a miracle out of the ground and somehow we kept it going for 2 hours for the actual jam to start. I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
Yeah, it was good.
But so you were the sponsor because you have a game. And what is
That's
that
right.
game?
That's Legends of Boom.
Yes, the game
Yeah.
I have been kind of obsessively watching for a while now.
Yeah, it's a weird game, and it's
It
gonna
is.
be we're gonna see how it goes. It's a weird game.
It
It's a lot of fun, but it's definitely not easy to explain.
Yeah, the best way to explain it, in my opinion, was it's Hearthstone chess mixed with a timer. And you've got to beat your other opponent with strategy or just better cards.
Yeah,
It's a very unique game in its
yeah.
whole aspect. Also, we've got a swearing Muppet. And that is probably one of the best features of the game.
I personally love that feature, and it seems like a lot of good feedback. But what we're worried about right now that we kind of knew of is that Flip Rimrod might be kryptonite to streamers in the sense that uh, he says whatever he's thinking. So I think for streamers, they'll probably have to just turn him off.
I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit, but for the average person though who just wants a good like mixture of like strategy while being told like you suck by the announcer is the perfect like amount for everything.
Oh yeah, it's really good. Tim Kitzrow did the voice, and he did an amazing job. Yeah,
I've been watching your YouTube shorts. We'll get into those, but I've been watching your channel's YouTube shorts. They are pretty good. Like, I want to know what's going on with his mindset when you ask him these questions.
yeah, right.
Because they don't feel scripted, period. They just feel like he's just riffing the entire time.
Yeah, we actually spend a lot of time writing comedy for the bits and the ones that are in the shorts as well as ones in the games. And we've written over 5 hours of comedy at this point, which is our
That's
special is an hour. So we've really
yeah.
put a lot of time into it. Not all of it lands, but it feels pretty good.
I mean, hey, that's just it. Not all of it lands. But so when does this game go live?
So we're going live. I think we're going to do early access. We're actually any day now. We're going to let people in there and try to work through some of the bugs, have people help us out with a variety of things. But we're going live soon, man. It might be next month. I think it's next month.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's next month.
Pretty sure it's next month.
Unless something terrible happens, But I think the bug list we have is down to there's only a couple bugs that would like stop player progress, and they're not at the beginning. They're kind of towards later games. So we don't have any showstoppers that'll hold us up right now. We're honestly the thing we're trying to rush to get out is we're trying to write a bunch more comedy that's clean, so that when you turn the mature filter, like turn off
Yeah.
mature, so that you have more material and you're not kind of like hearing some of the same stuff so often. That's really what we're
Right. So like with that in mind though, like is that going to cost you extra to have him come through and do that though? Or how would that work?
yeah. Tim Kitzrow, he's actually this is the first time he's ever joined a game company.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, so he's actually in um, as a developer on the game, first time ever. So he'll do it for free, I guess, if you want to say that, right? He just doesn't book anything for a few weeks, and and records the material. So it's
Okay.
not free. It's costing a lot for him, but it's free to us, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. So it pretty much like, hey, you're on call because we found this problem, and now we have extra.
Yeah.
When is the game? So you said it's going to go early access, but
Yeah.
so are you doing like an early access release and then going to do a full release later on?
Yeah, we're so really what we just don't know, right? We don't know. We just want some more player feedback, honestly, before we start charging people, because we
Oh,
don't
that's
know
fair.
if it should it be that it's free to play for everybody and that you buy card packs, because we've made it so that free players can get access to all the cards and everything like that. So it's like paying money for cards might just accelerate your time to upgrade some of them.
Right.
Or do we charge money for it? We charge $20 for it, and then have expansion packs so that you have to pay like $5-10 for every new card set that comes out. That's the kicker is we quite honestly don't know what the players want. So
Right.
we want some feedback there.
In my experience as a gamer, I know honestly, I would look almost to Rocket League and how they do like their battle pass system. Their battle pass system is you pay 1,000 credits of their in-game currency, which is like $15 or something. And if you reach rank 100, it pays that money back to you in credits so you can buy the next battle pass. That is one system that I have not seen anybody really poo-poo on too much.
Okay.
Like that's something I don't know how it would work for your game per se, but I know like that's something the community has been toying with for a while, and I have not seen anyone really complain about that at all. Especially because you can still hit the 100 battle pass while you're playing, Rocket League in general, but like you don't get those extra stuff. So it's a lot of give and take, and yeah, I think player feedback would definitely be best for that. Have you looked into like seeing like what Hearthstone does or Magic the Gathering? Because I know they do like paid packs and whatnot.
Yeah. So it's a lot of just sort of buy packs of cards and
Right.
yeah, which is honestly, it's tough for me, right? Because I've actually played, I've paid money in all these different ways for different games, and so I have my preference. But that's the thing is I just don't know. Like, it seems like the Hearthstone method, given the most common, might be the best approach. But with Fortnite and other games with the Battle Pass,
Yeah.
that's a more current maybe mechanism for monetizing on people who aren't playing a lot but want to be competitive. So that might be the right answer. Fluffy.
Yeah. I mean, there's the aspect of though the question is how would you do a battle pass for your game? And that's kind of going to be like a business sit down meeting. Like, okay, how do we do this?
We do have a pretty good mechanism for stringing together series of battles that can have all kinds of modifiers on them against AI. That might be a good challenge. Like to get through the battle pass, you got to clear these progressively and harder
That's
tier maps. Maybe
it's a
that's
skill issue. It's
Yeah.
a skill issue, not a money issue.
Right.
There you go. That's one way to doing it for sure. And then you're going to have, if the game does get popular, then you're going to have YouTubers making content saying, okay, guys, here's how you do this. We figured it out, which then brings more eyes to your game, which, yeah, it could work.
Yep.
I mean, look at Dark Souls. People love the Dark Souls, and they do like no armor runs, no magic run, no bonfire run. And like the developers, like there was a great meme about this. Like, hey, somebody beat our game with no armor. Like, cool. Why the hell would they do that?
Yeah.
Like
that game's so hard. All those games.
It is hard.
I've spent a lot of money buying those and then not playing them.
I have a copy of the Xbox
Like the
360. Level. I have a copy of the Xbox 360 Dark Souls wrapped in dog chain and buried in a backyard somewhere because that pissed me off that bad. And they're like, you didn't even make it past the tutorial. I'm like, there's a tutorial?
Yeah. That's tough. That's a tough series. It's
He
probably
is.
easier if you just had like your dog randomly step on the power button of your console. You'd probably have a better chance of making that through that than
You'd be
their
happier at
actual
least.
gameplay.
Like you'd be happier. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
you'd have an excuse for why you're getting your ass whipped.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the lovely viewers that's out there. So for all the lovely viewers out there, sorry, I got a tickle. This is a Q&A. We will be reading your comments live and any questions that you have for the legendary Andy, which you can find him at Trendy Pants on X, I believe.
Yep,
Is that right?
that's me.
Yes. And your game, you guys have an actual YouTube channel for your stuff. I just can't remember what it's called.
It's
Is it
First Moon
First
Games.
Moon? Yeah,
Games.
First Moon. Absolutely. So let's bring up the first ad run for this, right?
Sure.
Let's see what
let's
this
do
is
it.
all about. Go for it. Why work here is the first one listed.
Why do I want to work at Trader Joe's? Well, for starters, I love the unlimited free samples. Last time I was here, I scarfed down like 40 or 50 of those little Swedish meatballs. So that is definitely number one. Is it a requirement to ask customers personal stuff like, how's your day going so far? If they're buying a bunch of booze, you say, so you got a big party tonight? Because it could get a little awkward if they say, yeah, I'm having a big P. Diddy freak off. You want to come? What am I going to say? Just use my judgment. That makes sense. Oh, question. Do you have to get your earlobes pierced with those giant rings in order to work here? Because last time I was in, this guy had these rings the size of pickle jar caps in his ears, and I threw up all over that weird little checkout counter. And it might have been my hangover and the meatballs, but not required, but permitted. Okay. Last question. Which gender group is the alpha dog here, so to speak? Because I'm guessing it's the lesbians. And if they're not, that's who I vote for because, let's face it, they get you.
Yeah. We'll let people hang on that one for a bit.
I just love the fact, like I said earlier, like it comes off so natural. It kind of felt like you just put him in a booth and said riff.
Yeah, I wish it were so. Yeah, it's actually for anybody out there that's wanting to write comedy. It's a skill, right? That you need to hone. Luckily, Tim, who's our main writer, and I just riff with him and help. Um, or a lot of times I'll come up with the scenario, and then he kind of embodies it, and then we just go back and forth. But he's the primary writer, and he trained at Second City in Chicago, which is kind
Oh,
of where the
really?
old SNL guys all came from. Yeah, so he's really got there every word, all the beats, all the pauses, that's all actually planned out. And I know that doesn't sound fun when you're talking about comedy, but that's how
Oh,
it comes off natural, is because you're kind of
yep.
imagining yourself as Flip. You're imagining this guy who he's interviewing with, and the guy's responding with like, "Oh God, what have we done?" That sort of thing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I mean, I know of Second City. I live actually like 45 minutes from Second City, so
Okay.
I'm not too far away from them. But man, some of the comedy people that come out of there, they're either some of the worst or some of the best. Like there's a huge spectrum from Second City.
Yeah.
And they kind of lean into it sometimes too. They're like, okay, if you go out there and you bomb, you never were here. Like, period. You were never here.
Yeah, right. We don't claim you.
But I met one of the managers back in 2012, and that dude was hilarious. Like he's like, I've seen it all. You can't fool me. Anything. Like I know when someone's good or bad right away. And he just looked at me and went, no.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I'm out. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough business.
It is a tough business.
It's like games, right? It's really hits based in the sense of, do you taste success in the financial way? Most of the time, no. But every now and then, a lot,
Well, okay. Do you think making a game comes from a central idea point and just to get expanded upon? Or do you think the game that you create is more of a, hey, let me try this?
Well, I mean, I think it's all over the place, right? Some people want to emulate the thing that they love, like kind of take an idea and just refine it. And that's probably the most successful formula.
Right.
And actually, that's why the mainstream games do that, because you want to reduce your problem set to as few miracles as possible. And one of those miracles is you're going to create a new game type that people just happen to love across the land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck with that, because that's tough. Unless your name's Shigeru Miyamoto, you're probably not going to be good at that. I mean, Zed, I'm going to hate to break it to you right now.
Yeah.
It's possible, but not likely. And so
I mean,
copying and iterating is the most like chance for success. But that's what the indie game, landscape is so interesting with, is that you don't have nearly as much of that, and you get some really interesting takes.
right. And kind of expanding on what you said, like not reinventing the wheel per se, but like changing something up. Look at the battle royale genres, because it started with like the main one was PUBG,
Yeah.
and then it was Warzone, and then Apex Legends came in, and they added the respawn in, and now every single battle royale has the respawn in trope. It's like
Yeah.
that was just one little change that completely dominated the whole market.
Yeah.
Like,
There's for any game devs out there or people interested in the games industry, there's Sid Meier's has a book. It's called Memoir, like with an apostrophe, like an exclamation mark, and it's him, talking about his life as a designer. And one of the things that stuck with me that he said was, they said, how is it possible that he made so many hit games? In terms of hit ratio, Sid Meier's probably, top three. I mean, name me someone besides him and Miyamoto.
I can't.
It's tough, right? At
I
that
can't.
at that ratio. And he said, well, here's the deal. Copy another game a third, like fully just straight copy. Don't change it. Take it, and then take
No.
another third of your game and copy another third of that game, but just make those parts better. So polish a third. So you have a third totally copied, a third totally polished, and then you have a third where you experiment but don't get too crazy. And that's
Okay.
how you make something that seems familiar, that seems a little fresh, but it also seems better. It's familiar, it's better, and it's fresh. And that's the Sid Meier's take. And I'm like, damn, that's really good. Maybe someday I'll follow that.
I mean, as you're explaining it, the first game that came to mind was Halo 3 ODST, because that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And they copied the whole Halo franchise and said, okay, now you're an ODST instead of a Spartan. And it's probably one of their best selling games ever, because of just, it was so unique.
Yeah.
But like, wow, I didn't think it would be that easy.
That's
Don't
how
get me
he
wrong,
breaks
it's
down.
not easy, but
Yeah,
like
right.
that's really easy to get like the idea down.
It's definitely a good framework to put yourself in, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of saying, I could do anything on the planet. That's a tough mind space to be in. Start narrowing it down to like, well, what do I think I could actually pull off? Art style, genre, technical, mechanics, whatever. And, and then pick something you really like, and then go, okay, I'll rip a third of it. I'll make a third of it better because I played it and I love it. I know what I would do to make it better. And then get creative with another third. Like, do we add a respawn mechanic or whatever? And then you've, at least in terms of the game itself being fun, you have a high chance of that being true. And now you're down to all the other stuff. Like, is it the right IP? Do you have a way to market it? Is the planet, ready to have another game launched this second? That kind of thing.
Right. And that kind of leads into one of the questions as we got here is how do indie developers manage to balance game development with their day job? This question was submitted by you, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's a question I've asked myself a lot over the years, because I started off, actually doing nights. Right, I would do nights on indie dev, and then daytime I was doing e-commerce development.
Ooh.
And so not the same in most ways, but the real thing is you have to put in the time. You have to put in a lot of time. You can't just, unless you're just hobbying, like you're just having fun with it. But if you're actually wanting to eventually be a job, you need to put in a lot of time. And here's the kicker. You shouldn't do it at the expense of the people around you who love you and need some of your time. And so, like, if you're going to miss dinners, and night bedtime with the kids. I can tell you from experience, you don't want to do that because regret is a taste you don't want to have lingering in your mouth.
So what I'm hearing is go
So
to
you got to get
Fiverr
up
and get your
early.
programmers.
Get up. Go to Fiverr. Yeah. That'll never backfire, by the way.
Never whatsoever.
Yeah. So I just tell everybody, look, you need to become a morning person. I know
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's cool to be like some late night warrior, but when you're, like 3 hours in on 4chan and you haven't typed into Visual Studio in a while, you should switch your your life over to like get up at 4 a.m. and start working and not go to sleep at 4 a.m. It's just better that way.
Yeah, I look, I don't envy you for the nights. I worked nights for almost 7 years. Like it sucked. Like you have a lot more power than I do because I wanted to get away from that as fast as I could, but I was stuck there forever. But I mean, anymore, it's like life gets in the way sometimes. How do you balance that though?
Yeah. The truth is that, real life is more important.
Yeah.
So you need to sometimes take a break. And sometimes, like for me, I became a workaholic early on and I was unable to sit down and relax. I was like the idea of sitting and watching a TV show or something was like I'd have like a physical reaction to it. I actually became addicted to what I consider to be productive work time. And like I said, it's the cost and the toll on everybody important around you is too great. So you can't go all in on all your time, right? Go all in on the time you can. Be 100% during that block, but don't make everyone else sacrifice for your dream because you will regret that and you can be successful without going there. It'll force you to make your productive hours productive.
So you're saying is don't sacrifice your support team.
You
Support
can't,
the support
man.
team.
You're going to give up on your friends and your wife and your kids and your parents.
Who needs those?
Right. I look back on my early years as an indie dev and I have 5 kids. So now the oldest one's 18 and the youngest one's 9. And I missed out on a lot of years of the little, the oldest ones, their little years. And I luckily came out of it before they were teenagers. And I was able to sort of, I don't want to say make up for it, but be there the way I should be there. And, thank God, because I regret missing the time I missed. I see pictures of them and I just like, damn, I wish I had more memories than just this picture of you at that age.
That's definitely understandable. I mean, for a lot of indie developers, I believe that's something they should definitely hear. So I really appreciate you saying that because I've been toying with something similar in my scenario right now of like, okay, am I doing too much? Should I be paying attention to other things? Like, so that actually kind of applies to me in some aspect. And I can appreciate that sentiment for somebody much more experienced than I.
Yeah, well, sometimes that experience comes at a great cost. So you don't have to listen to old graybeards, but every now and then you might want to.
I mean, I will because it's fashionable, and I wish I had the same setup that you did. I'm almost Amish right now. Like I need to get that.
I was going to ask you to make me some furniture,
which is funny because I have a woodworking business too.
You got to plug it. What's the URL?
It is in development right now.
Okay, all right, coming soon.
But I've been it's spoiler alert. This is not an official plug, but I've been working on getting wood burned engraving boxes for D&D nerds.
Oh.
So that way they can have dice boxes with all the different character classes on them. They can take different lids.
Nice.
Coming soon. I'll make an announcement when it gets up there, but that's not what this is about.
That's all right.
But those of you who are joining us right now, if you do have questions, please submit them into the chat. We will be asking. In your experience, though, what is the best part about programming a game?
Oh, man. I think any programmers know the pain and suffering. The development cycle for a programmer, it's not like a painter where you like slowly see the background and add some happy little clouds, and by the end of it, you got a nice little landscape. For programmers, It's like type, shit doesn't work, type, nothing works. You're like, damn it. Like it's just mostly a struggle. And then you have these moments of joy. And that's why people either love it or hate it because it's a lot like heroin.
A lot like heroin, huh?
Like,
It's like you just got to keep using it.
Facing the
using
dragon,
it.
you know. I just got to fix this last bug.
How long until I get this boulder up the hill? So your team has 2 people, right? I believe you said that you have 2 people working with your team, or is it more?
We have more. We have. So I have 2 business partners. Like there's 3 of us who started the company.
Oh, okay.
And then we have 7 other guys who are on board as well,
Okay.
but all part-time.
All part-time. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
So with that extra help, then it doesn't kind of eat at you saying like, okay, you know, like I didn't make this myself. It was a team effort. Does that eat at you at all? Or is it just something like you got to get over that shit fast?
You know, that's an ego problem. And I understand that a lot because my first few games, I was actually the only engineer for my first 5 games. And I took a lot of pride in that. And I think rightfully so, I would say. But, and maybe this is just a getting old thing, is it's more fun. Like once you've won a thing, it's more fun to help other people win than it is to win yourself again.
Okay.
And so for me, the idea of it being a solo project is sort of, I've gotten past that. I got that reward. I got the feeling of that. And so now that doesn't hit the same, but having other people get that hit of finishing a game is exciting. So I guess the answer is it changes over time. But I love helping the other guys win. And I just told them actually in our team meeting this week, like, this is the game I'm most proud of. It might be the game we sell the least copies of. I don't know. We can't see the future, but we set out to do a hard thing, as a small team, and we did it. And I'm proud of that. And everybody we had a lot of struggles. A lot of guys had, stuff going on during the time. I mean, it was a really hard dev cycle, but we stuck it through, and nobody washed out, which is really hard, right? How are you going to get 10 guys to not have any of them wash out? That's tough.
That's actually really impressive. I mean, it sounded like this game had some kind of development hell at one point.
Yeah, it
was written all over your face, like, hey, there's trauma there.
Well, and you can see, right, we thought we were going to have a 6-month dev cycle, and then we decided to add a fully animated Muppet that's, narrating it, the whole thing on top of telling jokes and all this other stuff. And we didn't even know if that was going to work. And how do you real time animate a Muppet? Because it's not lip syncing, and rhubarb and all that other shit doesn't work fast enough to run without, all this other stuff. So it was just a slog where we kept a scope creep really is the answer there. And we scope creeped, and we think it was the right amount of scope creep, but nobody liked scope creep. Everybody wanted to just release the game. And the reality is releasing the game is not the same thing as selling a game. You can release all the game you want. It's still got to be good to sell it.
All right. So we've got a question coming up.
All right.
We have a viewer with a question. I guess his name is Undevers, and he's a Redot engine developer. Is that right?
Cool.
Hey,
how goes it?
You guys hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Did I get your name right?
It's Andevers. I go by Drew.
Andevers. Okay.
Andy. Yeah. Actually, I'm one of the co-founders of Redot Engine.
Nice.
Okay.
Welcome.
One of the forks. But yeah, so what do you guys think about forks and that sort of thing? Have you guys taken a look at it, or?
I haven't looked at the Redot engine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're a fork of the Godot engine.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest one, I think, at this point. It kind of blew up. So right around all the crazy, stuff that was happening there. I think the first day we just, we were making a little fork. We figured we just kind of make a little engine, put a funny name on it maybe, and do some work on it. And we made a Twitter account and figured out a name and slapped a Canva logo on it and made a post. And pretty much it blew up. So I think our Discord went from like 4 of us to like 500 in an hour.
That's
And
impressive.
It's been a nutty almost 3 weeks, I think now.
Yeah, it's not long.
Yeah, it hasn't been long. I think our Twitter account is now sitting at like over 20, almost 21,000, I think.
Wow.
And our Discord's over 9. It's over 9,000.
So what's the aside from the principle of the situation, what's the Redot engine sales pitch, right? If you're trying to convince people to use your fork.
Sure. So the main idea behind it is to create a community that's just centered around making games. That's kind of it. Like, we don't allow a lot of discussion about unrelated topics for the most part. We just try to keep it game focused. Obviously there's a lot of banter and stuff that goes on in any Discord, which is fine, but we're very much apolitical, I guess, for lack of a better term. We try to keep the politics out of things. Engine wise, we're focused on making improvements to 4.3, which is the stable version. So we've actually forked both. We forked the 4.4 dev, which will continue to pull from there as they build on it. And 4.3 dev, we've added bug fixes and community features that the community's asked for. So really, we just want it to be kind of back to a community-driven project, where it really hasn't been that with Godot for a long time. Whether people know it or not, it's really been very corporate driven at this point.
So you're open sourcing the open source engine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's what open source is all about, right?
Yeah. So
like something, you change it.
It sounds to me like you guys started a project and now it went like, oh shit, I've got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly. Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, I mean, we've had developers come out of the woodworks. I think our team is at 8 or 10 core developers and maybe 14 or 15 contributors, people that are working on other features, and we've added in. So we've got a lot of hands on deck, a lot of experienced programmers. But as you said, it was just kind of like, crazy. So getting to the point where we're basically building the ship while floating in the ocean. It's kind of how I thought about it. So that's really kind of how it's been.
All right.
Well, congrats on that. Now you've got the responsibility of not leaving everybody out on an island without any support.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. That's really you're asking what's my take on forks, and that's it. It's if you're going to fork something and ask other people to use it, you're taking on responsibility now, the burden of fucking those guys over. Yeah. If you abandon it, right? You take them off on a trail where you're saying your trail's better than the main trail. So you just got to stick with it now or have a hard time sleeping at night.
It's my life's work now.
Yep, that's right.
Do not follow those who wonder.
I've had a baby.
Yeah.
And now
boy.
That's funny. So you're a game developer? How long have you been developing, and what kind of games have you made?
My first game was 2007. And it was a casual game, like a match 3.
Okay.
And then I made a game for GDC, like a giveaway game. And then I did an online web RPG. I did an online card game for Facebook. I've worked on big games too, like Marvel Contest of Champions.
Okay.
Transformers Forged to Fight. So and then
Nice.
Legends of Boom most recently. So kind of a variety all over the place.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw I saw the game jam on Twitter, and just been kind of like following along and seeing what all it's about, and looks like a lot of fun. Game jams are always fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, if you go to the Discord for its base gaming, you can actually sometimes watch these guys produce the game, and they're talking to each other like crazy. I hang out in there like once a week to see what everyone's doing. I am not a developer by any aspect. I'm just some dude who bitches online.
I mean, that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah. All right then. All right, thank you very much.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Red
lot,
Dot
guys.
Engine, huh? All right.
Yep. Good luck.
So the next question we have is from Generic Jam.
Okay.
Are there any tax code hacks you've got? Like, can I create an LLC or something and write off development costs as a company expense?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I would say, the only thing that has like a worse punishment than murder is cheating on your taxes. You're going to get your ass in trouble. So don't do that. But do everything you can under the law, and you'll know we call them loopholes or all that stuff. You have to learn to play the game properly. But as far as hacks, so yeah, you can start an LLC, and the overall tax rate is about half of what it is to a personal rate. So let's say you're paying 35% or whatever average tax rate as a guy, you might be paying 15 to 20% on your LLC. Now, the real trick is you've got to make money for tax write-offs to do you anything. So you don't want to be just a guy with making games and have an LLC, because you have to pay, it's at least it costs you at least $1,000 a year just to have an LLC, in terms of formation and minimum payments and paperwork and paying your tax person and all that stuff. So it's only useful after you have revenue, and even individuals can write off a lot of personal stuff. And so I'm going to sum this long answer up into a short one. Don't worry about that unless you need legal formation stuff with other guys and you're going to put money in, and you need a legal way to like figure out how to divvy it up, or you're making more than like $100,000 a year. Because if you don't have other guys involved, you don't need the legal paperwork. And if you're not making more than $100,000, there's like how much it costs you to deal with the LLC versus how much write-off stuff you're going to get. There's a line in there, and maybe it's $50,000. I don't know, but it's somewhere in that range of amount of money before it becomes useful. So don't do it too early.
Something else you should look into, is because of something I looked into, is check your state ordinance as well, because sometimes your state ordinance will say something different than your like the federal will, and that's for inside the U.S. I don't know about outside the U.S. at all, but because I know Indiana and Michigan have completely different LLC laws. They are very different. So
yeah. Taxes just don't get fancy unless you get advice.
Okay. All right. I guess we got another question coming in for Token Taken User. Is that right?
That's about right. Yeah. Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Glad to be here. So I like hypotheticals. So imagine having an unlimited budget. Somebody's giving you all the money you need, and gives you total creative freedom. What would the game look like that you were to make then? And how would you organize the company and like the team?
Boy, that is a tough one. Because, right, I don't think that's a good problem to have.
I can take this.
I'll let you go in a second. The reason I say that is because you're going to want to do something big, and that's okay. But if you've got an unlimited budget and total creative freedom, you might want to try to make the biggest thing. And the biggest thing's probably going to need a big ass team. And a big ass team sucks a lot of the fun out of making a game, because most of your problems are not technical problems. What kind of a code, structure should we have for this, or what engine are we using, or what tools are we using for the artists, or it's like, what's the build pipeline look like? How do we deal with commits of 1,000 people at once? Like EA's got with Battlefield. It sucks in there. Believe me, those guys have a hell of a thing to work against. And so it turns into a total nightmare. And so while it sounds like a fun problem, as the leader of that, you're only dealing with nightmares. And so that's my answer, is that I would need to drink a lot first and then come back with like an actual game. But I'll be sobbing, like uncontrollably into the palms of my hands for a few hours on the way there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pose it like maliciously as a trick question, but I knew that there's not a great response to it. But it's interesting that you raised the point of, okay, now you basically, it's like it's a bit of the Midas touch, because money is not a problem, but then you're making this huge thing, and now you have like a bunch of other problems that you wouldn't have.
If you don't have money problems, you have people problems. Guess which ones are worse?
People. People. It's always people.
And there's been like a few examples of games with basically unlimited budget in the past. I mean, I remember the whole Duke Nukem scenario, for example, where they just went on and never had any issues. So yeah, it's a bit of a curse then, right? But you didn't say what kind of huge ass game you'd make. So maybe you can answer.
I love games where if I was gonna do like my what are we gonna do game, it would be a one kind of map, world, setting, whatever scenario, where there were multiple game types within it. So I've always had this idea for some kind of a almost like imagine a volcano, like cavern, or something where you have people like up on the walls, and there's like rooms back in there. You got FPS going on in there, but you also have like a whole fleet of players who are just controlling, like locking rooms down and flooding channels and killing people over here. And then some people who can like see, like over maps, like super zoomed out, and they're just controlling, like the drop rates and regen spots. And so that you have like 6 games in one, and you have people, not just different classes, like a Team Fortress, but like totally different games in one game. Because I think the meta experiment there would be so fun to see how people kind of switch back and forth. And that would probably be the biggest loss of money of this $1 billion, of this, $1 trillion game. But that's what I would do. I would waste all the money trying to do something insane like that.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So we got a guy coming up. His name is Inky, and I guess he's got 2 questions for us.
All right. Inky, bringing it.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, same.
How do you guys keep drama away when working in a team?
You can't.
Drugs.
You can't keep drama away. No, the best way to deal with drama is to just address it instantly and with truth, and get down to it. Because generally drama is one person's like 60% at fault and one person's like 40%. The 40% person's going to pretend they're a victim. The 60% person's going to pretend they were set up. You got all this other shit, and then you got a bunch of people going to weigh in as authorities. They only know like 38% of the actual scenario, so they're seeing different sides of it. Like humans are really good at letting each other down. And so you just have to go and say, okay, stop, cut. Guys, we're on the same team. What's going on? You talk. Okay, now you shut up. You talk. Yeah, I mean, you just have to actually just treat it like people are 2 or 3, not in the like a negative sense, but in the sense that we got to cut the bullshit out. You guys are too smart. You're going to try to be tricky. What's going on? You just have to address drama and nip it in the bud, because it can't be. You can't let it. It'll fester the fastest and ruin the team. Totally ruin the team. If the leadership doesn't stop the poison apple, it's going to poison the well fast.
Give them 2 foam swords and have them duke it out.
Or that.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Personal definition of success in indie dev.
Ooh.
Man.
Not going bankrupt.
No, I think. Well, we have two things I think drive indie devs. One is, I think commonly we like to create. We want to create things, and the other is we actually want people to be happy. The people around us, we want them to be happy, and this becomes for certain types of people our way of both creating and bringing joy. For whatever reason, we're autistic, or I don't know how it works, but that's what we do, and so I think for most indie devs, if you measure your success in terms of dollars, you're going to feel like you didn't do it. So if you make a game and people played the game and they like the game, to me, that's successful. Making a game is super hard, and making a fun game that people like is super hard. So if you make a game and people were like, yeah, I like it, then you know what? That's successful. And that's actually the best way to get yourself picked up if you want to do it as a job, even if your game didn't work. Having a functioning game that's fun, that's like a get hired card, for most companies.
Thank you.
Yep.
There we go. Thanks for the question. All right. So I guess we have another short coming up for your game.
Right. Flip Rimrod.
Conflicts.
Oh, how does Flip resolve conflicts in the workplace? Okay, let's do it.
It lines up well.
How do I solve conflicts with coworkers? Well, you've got to know who they are, what their likes are, their dislikes, learn something about their past. I'd say it turns out I find out that you have never put a single penny in that donut donation coffee can, but you eat 3 donuts every day. And then you accuse me of taking money out of the Halloween party donation can to buy some smokes, which I always put back. Classic office conflict, right? And normally those two kind of things should cancel one another out. But then you say, I stole money, you just forgot to donate, and you're going to write me up. Well, now we are at DEFCON 6, my friend, or DEFCON 1. I always forget which is, whatever the worst one is, that's the DEFCON we're at. Okay, that's when you're going to get a little encrypted message that shows a video of you at Burning Man from 10 years ago because I did a little research. You're wearing nothing but a horse's tail and a unicorn horn, having sex with a totally shorn albino llama wearing a Miley Cyrus mask. And guess who's buying donuts tomorrow? So, yeah.
Well,
I have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, Flip handles his conflicts differently than a lot of people. But I think there's a method to his madness.
I'm sorry, that one really got me.
Yeah. Why don't we just go to another one, Fluffy? Let's just cut straight into another one.
Let's go to another one.
Sometimes Flip asks questions at the end of an interview. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah, what is your office romance policy? Because I know a lot of places frown upon commingling in the office. Do you allow it? You do. Very surprising. Good to know. Second question, would there be like a legal bag limit for the amount of office gals a new employee could commingle with in, say, his first month before he got written up or fired? Judging by the look on your face, I'm going to say not a good idea. Fair enough. Finally, if I was to hypothetically ask your very lovely secretary out after this interview, and we go out to, say, a fondue restaurant, and she accidentally gets burned with some very hot cheese, yeah, I'm just playing a little harmless game of under-the-table handsies. I mean, we are in a dimly lit romantic restaurant with a couple of carafes of house sangrinas. That's what you do in a place like that, right? I mean, when in Rome. But then I begin to work here, and she's telling everybody about the horrible burn on her face, how I'm bad news. You hear about it. Is that a classic game of he said, she said?
Or is it just a game of she said?
Yeah.
Good times. I enjoy watching Flip get after it.
And 5 hours. You guys went 5 hours of comedy.
Well, 5 hours of comedy writing. Yeah, it's epic. A guy will spend years to do an hour, like a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
And usually they you rotate 5 and 10 minutes in and out of a bit, so that every year you're doing 10, 20 minutes of new material. So it's hard to, you could talk about lines of code. You could talk about like terabytes of textures. 5 hours of comedy is a mountain of
Yeah,
comedy, and so
that's
we're just
like
happy when
doing.
people laugh because it's so hard to do that.
I mean, that's like doing any kind of animation where, like, yeah, I got a minute done in a day. Like, that is unheard of,
Yeah.
sir. Cocaine is illegal. Like,
Yeah, that's why you go to Miami all the time.
I mean, hey, sometimes in Miami you can get the best prices for the best deals, and then
That's what I heard.
afterwards you can just have ICE come in and take your money back.
Yeah, or wander out onto the beach and find more.
I mean, is Charlie Sheen in town? What is so? As long as we don't have another question coming, I got a question for you.
Yep.
If you're planning on doing a game, the game loop, like, what is the best way you could get somebody to understand like a game loop by itself?
Yeah, you gotta think. If you want to think about game loops, you need to become Sonic the Hedgehog, because it's loops and loops and loops and rings and overlapping rings, and you're just gonna be seeing rings. The loops are you have your kind of minute to minute loops.
Yes.
You have a 5-minute loop. You've got a 10-minute loop or a 12-minute loop. You got a 20-minute loop. They need to overlap. They need to not intersect all the time, and so and they can't be at the same intensity level. So in Legends of Boom, I theorized that the session time, which at the time we started was like 3 minutes, was sort of the go-to session time for a mobile game. And I know we're not doing a mobile game, but we might. Maybe this game's better on mobile. I don't know. We were experimenting, but the session time would be less than 3 minutes in the future and not more. Just a vector, right? It's not getting short.
Right.
It's not getting longer. And so we put it down to 2, and then we lowered it to 90, and it was intense, but you didn't feel like you got enough. And we were like, damn it, that's a good loop. That's a fun loop, because I just want to play one more. And so you got to find the fun in each of the loops. I know this is super abstract. I don't know. There's not a formula, but you basically have to find the fun in each loop and then figure out how you can back it off a little bit. So we have after a couple matches, go to your deck, maybe change a couple cards out, try that out again. And, and so you have these kind of bigger outer loops. And so just think of it as rings, loops and loops and loops that are overlapping. And you got to find the fun in each one and make sure that you have sort of a ride like this. So you have intensity and then non-intensity.
Absolutely.
A lot of that. Takes forever. You got to just try it.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of games have their own loop style that works for them. And my question is, like, how long did it take you guys to figure out like the 90 seconds is the loop to go for? Was it just, hey, let's just keep experimenting until we find it?
I think it took us probably, so the game itself didn't really change. If you were to look at like the drawings on paper to 6 months in,
yeah,
the game itself wasn't very different just on the surface level, but all the numbers for everything were different. The timer didn't, like I said, I started off at 2 minutes thinking 3 was where everyone was at. I thought it was 2. We went to 90, so not huge changes, but it took 6 months of refinement to get that core loop fun enough.
There we go.
Then we finally went, okay, it's finally fun. And then what I realized, it's finally fun to do the thing, right? It doesn't just look cool, it's actually fun. And then what we realized was that 90 seconds was awesome, but you knew if you were going to whip that guy's ass in 45.
Ooh.
And so
that's always the best part.
So it's good for you, but if you're losing, you knew you were going to lose 45 seconds in. So you had 45 seconds to endure. And so we were starting to say, we want a forfeit button. And I said, absolutely not. Forfeit button. That means we got a problem. We can't solve it with quit the game. Like, of all the things, like, stop playing, like Mario Brothers, not fun. Boop, reset. You're like, what are you doing? You're not invited to my house anymore.
Right.
So what we did was we realized that I needed a comeback mechanic that wasn't certain but was possible. And so what we
Okay.
did was so you're getting your ass kicked, right? Blah, 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 blah. Well, you could, if you've taken enough damage, you can basically gambit, sacrifice your piece, turn it into a nuclear silo, and then 3 seconds later, if your piece doesn't get destroyed while it's sitting there, it'll come down and nuke the hell out of the other side. You don't know where, and the more you're losing, the less likely it is to be a good hit. But every now and then, one of those lands, and then maybe another one lands, and you might, like eke out a victory. And so that was like an addicting chance. You're telling me that, what was all that 1 in a million talk? Telling me that
the Hail Mary throw,
right? So 10-20% of your time, it works, and more if you're close. So then you start thinking like, oh, do I really gambit like in the middle of this match? We're kind of even.
Right.
Do I start putting pieces like separated so that they can't get nuked? Do I, and so then what that did was gave us a next level of strategy, and the ability to have these boards play out with big strategy. And so my point is, you gotta just find the fun, and it takes a long time messing around with the loops, and you gotta just play your game, play it, and the parts that you don't like, if it's prickly, figure out a mechanic that makes that not prickly, that doesn't break your game.
Right.
And you keep doing that until you have just a fun game.
So speaking about things that work out best for you, from generic jam, what marketing strategies have worked best for you, especially with an indie game budget?
This is where I have bad news. There's not a short. What's the short answer? The short answer is, you, as an indie game team, as important it is to have an artist and a programmer, it's important to have someone dedicated to streaming, working with streamers, making videos about your game. I know that sounds insane, but
A little bit.
The reality. So on my other life, right, when I'm doing big games, we are talking about 9-figure marketing budgets. Go ahead and do the numbers. $100 million plus marketing budgets. When we're talking about launching a game with an established IP, so pick an IP that you love. Does it have lightsabers? Does it have a guy with big ears? That game, just to exist, requires $20+ million per year. Plus, you're required to spend generally that much money in month 1 minimum on marketing. It's a commitment that you make to get that IP. And so my point is, you have these big games, they're spending many, many tens of millions of dollars, and then past $100 million in a single year on marketing a new game release. What that does to the market for buying ads these days, it means that we're at a defense level spending budget for marketing, like you're buying X ads or whatever. It's almost impossible for you, despite all the little tweaks and targeting your audience and all that stuff. I mean, you may be able to make an ad that actually is worth the money. It might be possible. Probably not. And most likely it's an order of magnitude. We've spent, some of the ads we put up, we're spending $30 to $100 to get a wish list. Let that sink in. And then you're like, damn, I should have bought a Corvette. What do we do? I just got like 20 wish lists. What am I doing with my life?
I think
you gotta understand that reality. And so that what I'm saying is that there's not a good answer to this. It's definitely not buying ads or even buying ad rolls in streamers. They want $400 or $500. They're like, oh, I got 100,000 subscribers. Guess what? Your conversion rate from a link in a video, like let's say you're on YouTube, you got a video link in the description to your Steam store, maybe we're talking between 1,000 and 10,000 views will get the person to click the link. So how many trillions of views do you need to get down? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so these guys everybody wants $1,000. If you got any kind of an audience, you want 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 for the like. Today's video sponsored by blah blah blah. That's blah blah blah. And guess what? Also, people hate those ads.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I had to watch the ad to get to your video, and now I got to watch a video with an ad in it that I can't skip. So I'm gonna like scoot over it. My point is, we are in a wasteland of of easy ads. Back in the day when I was doing indie games, 15 years ago, I could buy like banner ads on the crappy top sites and forums and stuff for $30 a month, and I'd get some users, and in the Wikipedia article would bring me more users than the ads and all the stuff, and that's just gone. Everything's been slurped up into like 4 spots on the internet. The internet, when they say the internet's dead, the organic traffic is. And so all that to say, you got to bring someone on your team that's going to stream your game, stream your development process. And I'm saying this is, what am I doing next? That's what I'm doing next, because I spent a whole bunch of money, burned it all at the stake. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to have a full-time streamer. Is that me? Is it someone else? Like, somebody's going to have to just be doing that, because that's actually where the marketing is on the edge. And it's not the act man. He's awesome, but he's not going to be like, oh, your games, or Andy Pants is great, but you're not going to get 1 billion click-throughs, right? It's only so much reach.
Right.
And those guys want a lot of money, and they can get it because the guys with the $100 million budgets are paying it. And so what I'm saying is, it's defense level spending. They're outspending us 99 to 1. You just can't do the ads. I know I just went way too long on that, Fluffy. I'm sorry, but it's a really important thing that nobody's talking about.
Well, I was going to say, what your guys' ad strategy seems like is with having that YouTube channel, which is your studio, and putting out these shorts. Like, even there's no gameplay. Like, there's no game. It's just Flip going and doing what he's doing. Like, that is a better ad campaign in and by itself than it would for you to buy ads, I think, because you're bringing them like, okay, what is this from? And then you've got the autistic people out there like me, like looking into like what this is. So like that's useful. It could work.
It might work. We don't know yet. So you can copy it if you want, but buyer beware. What I will say is that in the current state, where talking heads and streamers are the media.
Yes.
De facto, they're the media. They're where the buyers, the players meet the developers and the sellers. They're the single conduit. Okay. So because of that, you just have to be there. And the best traffic is when a streamer or a talking head says, hey, I like this game. This game's cool. And it doesn't look like an ad, or it's not an ad. Either way, if they say that, that's like 10x. I guarantee the numbers are actually like 10x better than an ad would be.
Oh, yeah.
Just mentioning it. And, presumably it was free for you because they did it out of the goodness of their own heart. Now, the reality with that is that that's super infrequent. You can't count. You can't have a business strategy where you're hoping for the goodness of people's hearts. They're going to use their business platform to pump your game. So so don't rely on that. But the other thing that it does is effectively you have to produce content that's more entertaining than that streamer otherwise would be presenting to their audience, or that talking head right then. If they want to like roll your ad clip and go, hey, check this out, it's funny, it's because what they had queued up wasn't as good. And so it puts the onus on you, the dev, to now produce on average more entertaining content than all the best streamers. And you could do the math on that and go, that's impossible. Otherwise you'd be on average better than the best streamer. It's an impossible sort of burden to take on. And that's why the doom and gloom on. We have to actually, kind of coalesce as a community and figure out how to assume the role that has been left with sort of like the corporate like sweep up of everything. We have to rebuild the game development community. And I'm not just saying indie. Indie's an identity. Some of us identify with it. Some of us don't. Like I've been in indie a bunch of my life, and I still don't even think of myself that way. I think of myself as a game developer.
Right.
Not an indie game developer, a game developer. And
so what you're saying
we have to build that community again.
So what you're saying is somebody needs to buy up Kotaku and make it an indie game developing website, so that way people can get noticed more often, right?
I'm saying that we need to assume the role and provide more value than Kotaku provides.
Well, that's
Once
not hard
that
to
happens,
do nowadays.
Well, we say that, right? But we have to actually pull it off. And that's the real trick, is that we're not going to do it fragmented like we are. I have this this thing where right now we're in the land of we're in the like barbarian outrage cycle, where we have a lot of people who they're the lookouts in the tower at the corners of the castle, and they are bitching and moaning about the armies coming our way, and look at they're shitting on our fields, and they're doing all this other stuff, and these guys shouldn't even be in our land, and all this stuff. Those guys are good for calling out an issue that we got coming down the pipeline, but they're not part of the solution. The thing we're missing, so that's, you have to have those guys to identify, and it kind of coalesces the group, right? So that's where we're at. We all like, hey, we got a lot of weird stuff happening. Okay, we're not alone. We can't just sit down and bitch about it.
Well, we could, but we're making progress.
No, we will remain barbarians. We won't become Romans and build the amazing things. We're not going to build cathedrals. We're just going to be like living in the squalor, bitching about the guys that made the squalor. Right. And so we have to come together somehow. Yeah, and I don't know what this looks like, but we've got to get the community back and say, look, we're going to assume the role of the leaders that are going to take us. We are going to, here's where we're going, fellas. Indies or otherwise, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in making fun games, good games, and bringing joy to people, then you're on our team. If you're interested in like if you just are pissed off about stuff, or you got a bone to pick, then you might not be part of our group. I don't know, but here's what we're doing. We're gonna fucking make games great again, and I'm gonna have to see how many letters that is.
It's MAGA.
Yeah, right.
Games great again.
we have to have a desire for like where we want to go in the future, and not just be pissed off of where we're at.
All right, so we've got Dino Softic. Is that right here? Flip tweeted about a unique chat feature. What's that about?
Well, so we have in the game, there's this currency called Boombucks, because we're clever.
Boombucks, yes. And
you earn Boombucks playing the game, just moving around on the maps, anything, right? You get Boombucks. And so sending a chat message costs a few Boombucks. It's like, it's really whatever's nothing. It's just above nothing. It's not much, but there is a cost. And so, and as you chat more frequently, or if people downvote your chat messages, which costs money to downvote, you don't just get a free downvote, then your cost to chat goes up. And so I was trying to figure out, like, free speech and all this stuff. It's like, well, it's not free speech. This is our game. The community who's playing it. It's their game. If you just come in and start, running your mouth, we shouldn't just accept that. But at the same time, like, who gets to moderate? We could say it's us because we made it. We could say it's the community, right? And so instead I thought, like, how does it work in the real life? In real life, if we go into the grocery store, I'm standing behind the guy and he's at the checkout counter and he's like, hey, you're looking a little heavy today there, Karen. He's running his mouth. He has a cost, and that cost might be that I say, hey, maybe you shut the fuck up, or maybe I, escort him out of the building. See, there's a potential cost to that speech, even though it's free. And there's a cost to the lady. in this story, right? There's a cost to everybody. There's a cost because now you've upset me. How do we do that virtually? How do we make it so that it's not free, but it's almost free, but it can be progressively more expensive very quickly? And in the real world, right, you've got all kinds of stuff. You could have police come. You could have a bunch of dudes that just aren't having any of it. You could have that lady with the taser, pepper spray. There's a variety of options. And online, right, we have a different variety. So that's the idea of there's a cost that can escalate, and so it's just that kind of stuff.
All right. So I guess the next person up is Pun Faker. Is that right? Pun Faker. Yeah. Welcome. Right. What is your question? We're
good.
doing.
I don't know shit about games, but wait, can I swear on here shit?
You did. You are. You might as well go with it.
All right. I don't know shit about games, but I had a question. I watched one of them game jams, and I saw a game I really liked. I'd like to see on a phone, and I got an iPhone because I've always had an iPhone. I'm too, almost said the R slur. I'm too stupid to.
No, we can say retarded here, sir.
Oh, cool. I'm too retarded to change phones at this point. So, is there a barrier to entry for an iOS development game? Like, is there a reason that there's one of these games I'd like to be able to play on my phone, like in the airport and shit. So, what's stopping some of these simpler, smaller games from being able to be put on iPhone?
There's not a lot stopping them. In fact, there's probably over 100 games a day getting released onto it. The thing that's stopping you is not the releasing of the game, it's the getting the word out about the game. Because you're just releasing it it's like if you wrote a book and set it on your coffee table, how many copies are you going to sell? That's the same thing as putting a game into the iPhone App Store. You're literally going to have no eyeballs. So you got the work it's partly making the game, but mostly nowadays it's actually getting the word out.
All right. Yeah, I love that Biggest Dickus game. I'd like to be able to have Biggest Dickus on my phone.
There's that game. There's all kinds of websites too, I think, to help you out with that, Pun.
Well, there's that.
Biggest Dickus was one of the games in the game jam.
Yeah. It was super hard, but I think the demo only lasted 4 hours.
Yeah.
Better call Doctor.
Right. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is for that game. So I'm not sure who developed that one, but hopefully they do end up producing it to mobile or even putting it on Steam, let alone anything else. But yeah, is that all you got for us? I guess it's so. He's gone. All we have next is Matt. Matt. Hey, welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Hey, can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of retarded, too. My question is, I want to know if there's space in the industry for people that know nothing about game design or game development, that have cool ideas, want basically zero involvement in the actual development process, but just want cool shit made. Like, is there space for that to happen? And additionally, is there space for that to happen well people like me who want to do that can make money off of it?
Do you have millions of dollars?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Well, once you get millions of dollars, there is space for you, and it's called an investor. And I'm being 100% serious.
Yeah.
There's no space without if you're going to contribute nothing except for ideas, because guess what everybody's got?
Ideas.
Tons of ideas. And so we don't have a shortage of ideas in games, actually. But if you have millions of dollars, and I say millions, I mean single digit millions, you could get a game made. You can do that. You can basically shot call it and get a team and actually have a game made. So yes, that's the only way.
Well, that's not the only way. There's also think tank operations that you could look into, but those don't really pay that well. But essentially what they do is they sit you down in a room with like 10 other people and go workshop. And it's just a think tank. That's all it is.
There's been no game company I've been at what was like, hey, we're out of ideas. We should get a think tank operations guy.
No, Is there like any reason you need to be like a multi-million-dollar investor and there isn't someone at these companies to filter which ideas are stupid and which ones aren't?
Well,
The
there
problem,
is.
Matt, is like I'm not joking. Everybody's got ideas, and
But how many of those are good ideas versus everyone's done that 8 billion
how
times?
do you prove that your ideas are good? The
I don't know.
biggest indicator, the biggest single indicator of success on the planet so far for humanity is prior success. It's not
Yeah.
the only one, but it's the biggest one, and it's by far. And so it's like orders of magnitude more better than how smart you are, or how persuasive you are, or how well you speak, how good you
For
look,
sure.
who you know, all your buddies, are they in games but you're not? You know you're delivering Budweiser to the. It doesn't matter. It's have you had previous success, and if you don't have that and you're an outsider, you have to have money. And that's because there's
Yep.
always people looking for money. And if you have money, people will listen to you because they have to, right? They need that money to do their thing. And so then at least you have the weight on your so if you don't have influence from prior success, then you have to have money. There's really no other indicators that make your opinion meaningful. And I mean like at all. Because all these other guys have been doing it. So they think that their ideas are more than yours right off the bat.
That's fair.
It's a hell of a thing. I'm not trying to be an ass about it. I just
No,
want to
no,
be real.
not
I'm be
at all.
real.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Well, thank you, Matt, for coming up.
Thank you.
All right. I do have one question that is for you.
Okay.
Actually, we talked about balancing your work style because, like, you've made sacrifices with your children earlier on that you kind of regret. How do you? I'm not going to ask like how do you balance that, but how do you recognize if you're going forward and then you hit burnout? How would you recognize burnout for yourself?
Damn, that's a good one. Burnout is tough to recognize yourself, because generally when you're burning out, you're in this bad loop of thinking that just one more thing and this will, like there's just one, if you could just do a little bit more, then your problems go away. And so you drag yourself into burnout by not ever having the release of fixing those problems, and you still have the problems. And so it's a really tricky thing. And so the way to have, to recognize burnout is to have people around you, friends, family, and be honest with them up front and be like, yo, please I give you permission. Call me out. Tell me if I'm in too deep or if I'm withdrawing. Withdrawing's kind of a big one. If you're withdrawing from your friends, your family, if you're missing dinners, you're not hanging out with your buddies, if you've canceled your like D&D campaigns, you're going down the wrong path. And you have to have people around you who can speak truth into your life with hard words that are like, yo, you need to get your dwarf ass back to the tavern. It's been 4 weeks and I still got like, I've got like an attack of opportunity that I haven't done. Plus there's that broad down at the end of the bar. The point is you are fucking up the campaign, my man, whether it's your buddies or your family, you won't know. So you gotta just, I would say, everybody go out right now and tell that person or those people, like, please tell me if I'm in too deep. I will listen. I may not react properly, but but please, you're going to need it because it's going to be almost impossible to find it yourself until it's too late.
All right. I see. We've got a repeat offender over here. Generic Jam with another question. I see YouTubers recommend going to a publisher with an unfinished game and having them pay to finish it. Do you have or done that? Would you recommend it? I want to say from experience of working with other businesses, you can get away with this, but I don't know about in game development aspect, because what you can do is you can incubate a business and sell it off.
Yeah.
So is that the similar with gaming development then?
So you can, but here's the reality check that everybody uses, and this is what all the publishers will use and the investor will use. they're going to offer you what I call expensive money. Okay. And then depending on how willing you are to take expensive money, that's how they know how much spidey sense, like gut instinct you have, that the thing's actually going to be successful. Because if you think that what you've got is worth $1 million, you've got a lottery ticket and you're looking at the letters, the numbers, and you know the numbers, and you're like, oh, I have it. And someone's like, yo, I'll give you $1 million for that. You're like, no, hell no. No. Right? Or if they're like, hey, I'll give you $1 for that. You're like, yeah, I'll give you $1. Let's take $1 for that. Right? It's the same exact thing. When you have a product that you've made partially, so you want someone else to take your half-done shit and magically throw money on it and magically like conjure up people who are excited to work on your project and see it to fruition and give you money for it, they're going to offer you really expensive money because they're going to look at it like, you know, like a pawn shop, and they're going to say, I'll give you $50 for this. I'll give you 10 grand. You know, I'll give you whatever. And you're going to say, sure. Because, and so, yes, you can do it, but you're not going, that's not the way to actually make money. It's just not. And the only counter to what I just said is if your team has released games before and you're a known quantity.
Fair enough.
Then all of a sudden they will actually believe that you're actually in a bind or you're actually needing the support that money can provide. You need an IP or you need to add 4 artists to make this thing look better or whatever. Then it's a believable story. But if you're an unknown dude wanting money for a thing, it's gonna be expensive money.
Right. I do believe we have another flip clip.
Oh, okay.
I'm coining that term now. A
flip clip.
Fish mouth? Is that fish mouth? Fish smell. Fish smell.
Or workroom.
I would be happy to answer that question, but I forgot what this job was. I've been to so many places today, they all just blur together. It's for a fish butcher, and this is a fish market. I thought it smelled funny in here. I wasn't going to say anything. I hate the smell of fish. I'm just trying to figure out why I might have circled this job. What's the name of this place? The Fish Store, huh? Well, no, that doesn't ring a bell. I thought I might have confused it with another business that I was. Oh, I know why. You're right next door to the Tits Ashore Gentlemen's Club. Fish store, Tits Ashore. I'm a little dyslexic, so when your ad said must have own knives, I thought it was for the bouncer's job, and those guys do make some pretty good cash and under the table. So I'm so sorry to have wasted your time. I have one more question. Does fish always generally smell this bad, or do you just have some rotten fish?
All right.
So that's flip being flip. What can you say?
With your experience, because you say you've done larger games and you've also done indie games, right?
Yep.
What is the ideal size for a development team?
It's the smallest possible team that you can put together to deliver the game you're trying to make. I know that's a soft answer, but it
is a soft answer.
More. So in reality, what is it? It's it's a couple, 2-3 people if you're making a getting over it kind of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And for Legends of Boom, you're looking at 10 people for however many years, a couple years. If you're making, obviously AAA games are hundreds of people. Even AAA mobile games are, kind of at above the 100 people.
I saw a mobile. I'm not to interject too much, but I saw a mobile game development team, and it was 185 people. I'm like, holy hell! Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think Battlefield is close to 1,000.
Yeah, but
worldwide.
I found out that this production team, they've got 5 groups underneath the same team that are making a game every quarter.
Yeah.
So like that made it a little bit more manageable because I'm going like, that's a lot of people for one game. for a mobile game. One mobile game.
Once you get over about 20 people, you have a layer of management that has to be inserted.
Oh, absolutely.
I say has to, but it just always sort of does because the comms problem dealing with so many people and trying to organize, it just starts to get tough. And so you start injecting people who just organize that stuff just to stay sane, you know?
Right.
And as soon as you start adding people who aren't directly adding to the game, right? Especially when you're at 20 people, you're starting to get into like who's dealing with all the medical insurance changes this year. Right. You start having just stuff to deal with, and you start adding more and more people who are not part of the game development, and so the culture changes internally. And once you get over about 30 people, it's a real struggle to keep. You're pretty much at the limit of what a single team can be, like effectively, and then from like 30 people to 200 people. This is what I call the like pit of despair, because it's just really, really, really challenging to grow through that. I've done it a few times, and it's just hard people work. The company outgrows certain people, right? But because they're there the long time, they become in roles that they're not good at, and then you have the jockeying for position, and then some new guy comes in and he's a manager and he shouldn't. I've been doing this for 10 years, like it's just it's not about making games, half the time. And so all that to say, that's why I keep saying the smallest team. Like what game are you trying to make? How long do you have to make it? What's your budget? Like get the smallest team. And guess what? Yeah. Contract out. Make friends with people, and ask if you could just hire their artists for a few weeks to do a couple assets or whatever you need, instead of hiring people on full time. No, all these other dev teams, depending on their cycle, they got time. And so, hit up your friends and be like, hey, I need one of your programmers to come help me out with a hard problem for a month,
Yeah, I never thought about contracting out artists like that. I don't know why that never appealed to me.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to wrap it up here. We did almost an hour and a half. That's pretty good. Nice. I'm not seeing any other questions coming by. Where can we find, well, first off, your game, Legend of Boom, on Steam.
That's right.
Early release coming soon.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And then it should be released in the next month or something.
We're thinking real release in November, and early accessing here any day.
All right. Also, for those of you who are new here, please, in the link below, there is the website, it's base.com, which has a link to the Discord server. Also, I believe on the X profile, it's Base Game Jam. You should be able to go into the Discord, hang out and talk. Because Discord. I believe we're doing an after show Q&A, I think.
All right.
Is what I'm being told is right.
Cool.
Where can people follow you if they want to get a hold of you?
Well, if you want to hit me up on X, it's at Trendy Pants.
Good.
There you go.
If you wish to follow me and my shenanigans, I am at Fluffy_Hobo on X. And I do a show every night on a weird little thing. I'm sorry. I do a show every Friday night on X at Romanation. And from there, I believe this week I'm talking about vegans and vegan products.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to be ripping them to shreds. I'm ripping them to shreds. Did you know there's vegan condoms?
Well, I'll bet it protects the meat.
It does not.
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't protect the meat.
Oh, I'm going to go into it on Friday.
All right. Well, I don't know how far you want to get into that, but
I've got a lot of material.
Okay. Well,
all right, but with that, people, please join the Based Game Jam server. The next Game Jam is going to be in January. And from there, we get details of what we're going to be making. Or not me, but you guys. I mean, I don't care what you guys make. I'm just here to announce the stuff. I'm the unpaid intern here.
Oh, yeah, nice. How many donuts you see here, kid?
Yeah. They got me a dozen this time. It better be 13 next time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get paid, Fluffy, so I'm, we're in the same, Well, actually, I think I had to
mean,
pay to do this, right? Didn't I pay like $1 million to show up on this?
I mean, you sponsored the event. That's on you.
I was happy to, man. I really do want to see people, like I said, get involved, and let's focus on where we're going.
Absolutely.
Everybody, we just got to motivate people. Let's do it.
All right. All righty. Thank you all for being here. I hope this was entertaining. Aaron, thank you so much for all that you do. It was very insightful for a non-game developer to talk to a game developer twice now.
Yeah. Happy to
we need to get on this Muppet deal, though.
Yeah. Give it a shot.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. We'll be moving over to the Discord.